On item 4, R4 is receive supervisors' reports on county-wide issues. Supervisor Baugh, followed by Supervisor Modi, and then Kehoe.
Thank you, Chair Kehoe. I wanted to mention I did attend PSA 2, which is our Area Agency on Aging meeting yesterday, and that's a cooperative PSA between the 5 counties in Northern California. I also attended yesterday H4L, Healthy for Life kickoff on the first level of the administration building here. I just want to report that as we kick off kind of a healthy eating and exercise campaign in Shasta County for our employees, that we have 29 teams this year and 225 participants in that effort. Well, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Baugh. Supervisor Modi.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the county, I was representative for the Shasta County's Joint Audit Committee. The Chair and Vice Chair are the members of that, which will be your turn next term. So I attended that with staff and the auditor and the members of the grand jury. I then attended the Shasta Regional Transportation meeting in December, and as well as yesterday the Shasta Regional Transportation Fiscal Committee, which I'm a member of now, and attended the Cattlemen's Annual Association meeting to discuss how our cattlemen are doing, and quite frankly, they're all still very concerned about the Williamson Act as well as with other issues. So,
thank you, Supervisor Modi. One observation, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to indicate that Mrs. Janet Terrell, sitting in the front row, representing the League of Women Voters, joins us for most of our meetings, and we certainly appreciate that. Supervisor Giacomini, anything?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kehoe. First, I would like to thank Mr. Minturn and his staff. We had a lot of communication over the big snow that really occurred in the eastern side of the county, and Mr. Minturn's staff did an incredible job. Anytime I would call him or send him an email note that I've got a complaint on X street, he made sure it got taken care of, and I truly appreciate the effort. I did get a lot of calls on people that were stranded, and it was a very difficult situation. Secondly, I was able to attend the DARE graduation upon Supervisor Hawes's request at Fall River Elementary, which was just a whole bunch of fun, and it's those types of events and more, working good on county policy and moving us forward that I really look forward to. And I look forward to getting to know my fellow supervisors better and to learning more about your districts.
Thank you, Supervisor Giacomini. Supervisor Chappelle? Thank you, sir. That concludes item R4. We'll now move to item R5, which is a lease with John P. Murphy Trust for space at 1405, 1415, 1421, and 1423 Court Street. Mr. Foreman, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Chairman Kehoe, members of the board, my name is Wes Foreman. I'm the Chief Probation Officer. Today, with your approval, we are taking the final step towards the implementation of the Community Corrections Center. The road to implementation has been long and full of hurdles. The initial concept was approved by the board in September of 2011. The hunt to find a suitable location began in November, 2 months later. After reviewing approximately 30 sites, the location at 1405, 1415, 1421, and 1423 Court Street was approved. Negotiation with the landlord began immediately in June of 2012. Thanks go to the staff and administrative office, county counsel's office, and facilities for their diligent work on negotiating and finalizing the lease agreement. Thanks also goes to Mr. Murphy for his willingness to lease the property to us. The CCC will be the initial staging area for all realignment offenders. Each year, more than 240 realignment offenders will make their initial contact with probation at the Community Corrections Center to go over their supervision instructions and be assessed for risk and to reoffend and criminogenic needs. Those needing additional assessments, such as mental health, alcohol and drug, supportive housing, and employment training, education assistance, will meet with staff on the spot. 100 offenders with the highest criminogenic need and requiring the highest level of treatment will report daily to the Day Report Center. We expect 200 offenders to receive the benefit of the Day Report Center in any given year. Services such as the Home Electronic Confinement Coordination, Compliance Team Coordination, and Work Release Coordination will take place at the CCC. Specialized caseloads, such as the mental health caseload, will be managed out of the CCC, and additional group services, such as employment readiness, life skills, and parenting skills classes will occur regularly in the CCC. 7 probation staff will be located within the CCC, including the recently hired probation division manager. She will manage the daily activities of the assessment center and oversee the contract with BI for the day report center. Additional CCC staff will include the following county employees: a mental health clinician, an eligibility worker, an employment and training worker, and sheriff personnel working with the work release program. Space will be available for personnel assisting with supportive housing and employment assistance. The lease agreement allows the contractor 90 days to complete the alterations. Once complete, and only after meeting county standards, will the CCC be open and ready for operation. If all 90 days are needed, the operational date will be the 1st of April. Our hope is to appeal to the city to quickly process the permits to speed up the alterations. And with that, I'm willing to answer questions.
Supervisor Giacomini, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Foreman, in reviewing the lease, I think I see 2 different start dates. On your discussion page 2, it says rent commences after completion and county's approval of all improvements of modification, et cetera. In the lease itself, on page 1, 2.1 initial term, it says it begins on the date of the signing of the lease.
The term of the agreement will start on the date of signing of the lease, but our rent payments will not start until after all improvements have been approved by the county and we agreed to a commencement entry date.
Okay. Thank you.
Supervisor Chappelle.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have a couple quick questions. What is the difference between the execution date and the commencement date?
Execution of the contract. Execution of the contract would be the signing based upon your approval from the chairman, and then the commencement date will be the date that actually all the alterations are completed and meet the county's approval, and then we set a date to enter the building, and at that point, then that will be the commencement date, and rent for the lease will start.
Okay, then there's a couple other paragraphs here, like it's 2.53, where he has, the leaser has, the leaser may terminate basically this lease within 76 to 90 days, and that's without cause, and we're going to give him $67,845 prior to that. Is that a concern to anybody here, or am I just reading this wrong?
First of all, I don't think we're giving him $76,000 ahead of that. But in regard to this section here in the contract, I'm going to have to defer to county council to help with that.
Okay. Well, it says that the county shall remit payment to leaser in the amount of $64,845. Okay, and that's additional compensation, and that's within 30 days. When we approve the work. So I'm just wondering how these dates line up. We got 30 days here, we got 64,000, we got 90 days. He can cancel out without cause. So let Mr. Cruz take over.
Thank you, Supervisor Chappelle. I would like to ask Assistant County Counsel Jim Ross to attempt to answer your questions. He was involved in reviewing the contract.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. James Ross, Assistant County Counsel. The provision in 3.6 that you're referring to, that payment's made after the work is approved. So that will be once all the construction is complete, the county's had a chance to go in and review the work, and they're prepared to go forward and commence with the lease payments and entry into the building. The prior provisions were at the request of the lessor, and my understanding is that they were based on a concern of getting into the construction and finding that there was some problem with the building that would increase construction costs substantially. So he wanted to have the ability to terminate the lease if that happened. Obviously, we were concerned that if that situation occurred, we've been waiting a month or two for that work to be done when we could have been considering other alternatives. And so that's the reason why there's basically a liquidated damages provision in there to compensate the county for the delay in being able to go to some other alternative when he terminated the lease because of some unforeseen construction costs. Does that answer your question, sir?
Thank you.
Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Kehoe. Just to follow up on that question from Supervisor Chappelle, so you are saying that even though he may have begun construction at his own expense, if he chooses to terminate, he will not be reimbursed?
Correct.
Because it has to be completed before we would pay.
Completed and approved by the county. If he terminates the lease prior to our approval, there's no obligation to make that payment under section 3.6.
So I want to make absolutely certain on that. We've completed, or he's completed $40,000 worth of improvements. He gets into item number 27, and then the biggie hits, and he decides to terminate. He's not getting any money.
Well, as we're all aware, anybody can make claims, but I believe the lease as drafted adequately protects the county from that situation.
So we're not going to issue incremental payments. We'll issue one payment at the end. This is why I'm asking the question precisely, because oftentimes government agencies receive incremental bills, pay
Correct.
them, and then it's too late, isn't it?
No, that payment is not made until the county has approved the work.
Very good. Then I just have one other question that's probably for the chief. It's item number 60 on page 20 of 20. The last line, it says concrete stairs with handrails may be added at one end of the landing. I always question that word may in any contract because it leaves it up to someone to determine whether it's needed other than the county. So why is the word may in there?
And I can't speak to the may. I'm going to have to defer to facilities to help out with that question.
Okay, be great.
Somebody from facilities still here to answer that question? Would you say the number?
It's on page 20 of 20. It's item number 60. And while I will say that there's great detail in the contract, so thank everyone for that. The word may seems to be less definite than the rest of the contract, so it just jumps out.
While we're waiting for facilities to come forward, Mr. Ross, I have a question of you. Are you prepared to answer that question?
I may be able to assist while he's looking up the information.
Okay, great.
Elaine Grossman, Senior Administrative Analyst. My understanding of the possibility of the ramp is, as you're looking at the building, there's basically 4 entries. The 2 entries that are to the center, one's going to go into the CCC, one's going to go into the Day Reporting Center. And instead of attempting to construct 2 ADA compliant ramps to each one of those entries separately, what was discussed is the possibility of just doing one ramp. So it'll come up, then it'll flatten out, and it'll be the length going across both entries. And at the other opposite end of it, if it works with the city permitting process, what the city will allow, because now we're talking about what's going on the city sidewalk. The city may or may not say yes to that other end of the flat part having a short stairwell. It's going to be not a very high rise when they end up designing it, and so it may or may not accommodate stairs. So not knowing the answer to that question, because of course the city permitting process starts later, we've allowed that option. As far as we're concerned, it'll be ADA compliant if it has the ramp and the flat section.
It sounds very clear what's in front of the police station, where on one side of the entrance is a very long, very slight inclined ramp, and the other side is a very, I guess what I'd say is a steeper ramp, but very short, and so it's probably that same kind of process that you're talking about.
Right.
Ms. Grossman, thank you for
Okay.
the clarification.
Does that help? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Lees?
And I just wanted to further clarify, you know, the importance to the county is the first sentence in item 60. And that says we will have ADA compliant entrance, period. That's what we're concerned about. We're allowing a little bit of flexibility as to how that gets there, depending on what the city will allow us to do and not do and what they find. Perfect. So we will have ADA compliance, though.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Mr. Ross?
Yes, sir.
As the board realizes, and I think everyone in this chamber realizes, there has been a substantial amount of angst associated with the Assessment and Day Reporting Center not being open in a more expeditious fashion. My question of you is this: relative to attachment A, Chief Foreman has indicated that the move-in date is April 1 in his previous discussion. And my question of you is, if these items, 64 items, some of them substantial, if these are not accomplished within 90 days, do we automatically vacate the contract?
I think you would have grounds to terminate the lease because they've not complied with the express terms. I think an evaluation of the action at that time would depend on the factors, how far they've completed, whether or not there needs to be an amendment to the lease to extend the time. I think that would be a decision that is based both on the legal factors involved as well as the business needs of the county.
If these 64 items are not completed within the 90-day period, do liquidated damages occur?
There is not a provision for liquidated damages for that occurrence.
What I find troubling here is that we've got 64 items, some of them substantial. So if the building owner advises, or his agent advises us that these can't be accomplished till July 15th, that puts us and the community in a precarious situation. And I might even say it's intolerable. So what leverage do we have here relative to accomplishing these items?
We would be able to sue for breach of the lease agreement.
But that doesn't move us along towards establishing a day reporting assessment center.
I understand, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Further discussion of this agenda item. Mr. Lees, Mr. Foreman, any concluding remarks? No, sir.
We're very anxious to keep things moving forward. I have the pleasure of meeting Mr. Murphy today, and he has assured me that he is very serious about working with the county and making sure this happens with us. Again, this has been a long road, and we're anxious to get things going. So we appreciate your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Foreman. Supervisor Chappelle?
Thank you. Just have one quick question on these buildings. There's 4 of them, right? Do you feel that this facility, when it's finished and at its maturity, will be adequate for your services that you need?
Yes, as I mentioned before, we reviewed up to 30 facilities. This one met the best means to handle the needs for the day report center and the assessment part. And yes, so I am very confident that this will meet our needs.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Chappelle. Further discussion? Is there a motion concerning disposition of item R5?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
And I'm going to second.
Further discussion?
Under discussion.
Yes, sir.
The obvious is that we're behind the curve here in getting to this point. I'm grateful that we are considering an approval of a contract. You have a special person in your office that's assigned to moving AB 109 and its assets and its properties forward. It's my hope that every bit of effort and gusto is put into this from the vote on, and that we're not delayed.
And I would certainly support that. And I would say that, that working within the county, that it is a team effort, and we have received the support that we need from everyone. And there's a lot more from just my agency that's putting efforts into making sure this happens. And so we all have that interest in mind, and we're going to move forward.
See, I'm doing a good job of putting you in charge here and making sure that the ball or the buck stops right there. Thank you.
I'll do my best.
I'm going to support the motion with a couple of observations. Number one, let's follow up on Mr. Supervisor Baugh's observation. Who is ultimately responsible for seeing that these 64 items are accomplished? I'd like a name.
The ultimate, I will be happy to weigh in on that.
Okay.
You won't like the answer, but the ultimate responsibility lies within the county board of supervisors. Now, who are we directing and who is bringing this forward? It would be Chief Foreman, and he would be the one responsible. He'll have a team with him. It'll be made up of facilities management and others with their expertise to determine whether these things are met appropriately. But in my view, I mean, the ultimate accountability is actually lies for this particular contract within the board with the board of supervisors. However, and I didn't say you'd like it. However, like I say, if we go forward in approving this contract, you're holding Chief Foreman responsible for making sure that it is completed, as we do with any department head or director with any contract that we approve.
What is the role of facilities management in accomplishing these 64?
Not accomplishing, but they would be certainly reviewing to ensure that they were completed appropriately. You know, proper ADA, for instance, or something like that. You know, we would use their expertise to determine that things were done appropriately.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. The observation that I make, Chief Foreman, is that all along in AB 109, in my view, there has been diminished accountability. There is no evaluation on performance standards or anything like that. And so this will serve as a litmus test. If this facility doesn't open by April 1, the date that you had given us, then that will be a pretty strong message to the board and to the community that maybe we're going to have to do business differently. All right, further observations or questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Now, the last item on our agenda is a closed session announcement. The Board of Supervisors will recess to closed session to discuss the following items, estimated at 1 hour and 25 minutes. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Estelle Rennie versus County of Shasta and Tom Pazenko. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significance, exposure to litigations, claim of the City of Reading, claim of City of Shasta Lake, and then finally the conference with a labor negotiator. And we are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.